Okay, let's start today's lecture. In this lecture, we learn about ideal autotransformers. Autotransformer is a transformer which has a same winding used for primary side and secondary side. And there are several taps available to step up the voltage or step down the voltage, because we know that the secondary side voltage depends on the number of turns. If there are more number of turns on the secondary side, it means there is more voltage across the secondary side. And if there is less number of turns, so it means there is less voltage at the secondary side. So sometimes we need to step up the voltage and sometimes we need to step down the voltage. So this is called voltage regulation. And usually in our homes, we have the voltage stabilizer, which give us voltage protection in case of high voltage. And this ideal auto transformer is manual voltage regulator, which provides voltage increase and voltage decrease across the secondary side. If this is the supply voltage, so this is the voltage provides out of the regulator. So there are some disadvantages because there is no isolation between the primary and secondary coil. So because of this, if there is a break of coil, so the primary voltage appear across the secondary voltage. Because of the open circuit here, so the primary voltage appear across the secondary side. So this is the disadvantage of this auto transformer. But the cost of the auto transformer is low because of this single winding, and it's cheap. Also the weight of the transformer is very low. So we analyze the ideal auto transformer. For example, we have a turn ratio of N1 at the primary side and N2 at the secondary side. So we have the ratio of N1 plus N2 divided by N2, and the V1 by V2, the voltage rating is 1 plus N1 by N2. So if we consider the losses of the transformer, so the primary losses is equal to the complex power at the primary side is equal to the complex power at the secondary side, and that is V1 I1 conjugate is equal to V2 I2 conjugate. So also there is an inverse relationship between the turn ratio of V1 is equal to I1 over I2. So I1 I2 is equal to N2 by N1 plus N2. Or we can say that V1 by N1 is equal to V2 by N1 plus N2. Right? So So this is the step-up auto transformer in which we have the voltage V1 is increased at the secondary side. So you can see here at the step-up transformer, the ratio of V1 over V2 is equal to N1 divided by N1 plus N2. And the vice versa is the case for the current ratio. So now we have to solve this problem. In this problem, we have an auto transformer circuit, and we have to calculate the value of I1, I2, and I0 across this load impedance 8 plus J6. Also, we have to calculate the complex power supplied to the load. So for this, we know the turn ratio. N1 is 80 turns and N2 is 120 turns. And V1 is equal to 120 at the angle of 30 degree. So this is in fact is a step-up transformer. So we have V1 by V2 is equal to N1 plus N2. So we will get the turn, we will get the 1 over turn ratio, which is 80 by 200. Or we can calculate the value of V2 by substituting the value of V1. So we will get the value of V2, which is 300 at the angle of 30 degree. So now we calculate the I2 current. I2 current is the V2 by this load impedance. So this is 300 at the angle of 30 degree and divided by the load impedance. So this will provide us the value of I2, which is 30 at the angle of minus 6.87 degree. Now we calculate the value of I1 when we know the value of I2. So again, we use this relationship I1 by I2 is equal to N1 plus N2 by N1, and that is 200 by 80. Now the I1 is 200 by 80 into I2. So we substitute the value of I2 and we will get the value of I1 as 75 at the angle of minus 6.87 degree over ampere. Now the value of I0 is in fact is this I1 current plus I0 current is equal to I2 current. So we apply KCL and we will get the value of I0 plus I1 is equal to I2, or I0 is equal to I2 minus I1. So we will get the value of I0 here. Now the complex power supplied to the load is I2 square ZL, and that is 30 square at the angle of the load impedance. So this will give the rating of the transformer. So this is the complex power supplied by this auto transformer to the load. So by this we have completed chapter number 15, chapter number 13, and we will start chapter number 15 today. So in chapter number 15, we learn the Laplace transform and its application for circuit analysis. So first we see that what is Laplace transformer and its definition. Then we study the properties of the Laplace transform, and we will study the inverse Laplace transform as well. So for logarithmic scale or the logarithmic domain, we learned that we have the original x, y, input, output, and we take the transform into the logarithmic domain, and then we can add these two values, and then we take the inverse transform from logarithmic to linear scale. So also we study about the phasor domain, that in phasor domain we have the time domain representation, and we goes to the frequency domain representation. We perform the circuit analysis in the frequency domain, and then we take the inverse transform back into the time domain. Right? So this is, in fact, we perform the time domain circuit analysis directly into the time domain, but this is another way to adopt the transform from frequency domain to time domain. So there is the Laplace transform as well. So for complex frequency domain analysis, we use Laplace transform from time domain to complex frequency domain analysis, and then we perform the circuit analysis in complex frequency domain, and then we take the inverse transform back into the time domain. So now there is a question that why we need another technique for circuit analysis. So because we want to consider the transient behavior of the circuits. So the transient behavior of the circuit is for a short duration, and for this short duration, the circuit behave differently. So it is just when you have the initial behavior of the circuit. So when we describe the equations which have a single node voltage or mesh current differential equations, so it's not necessary that we apply this technique, but if it's more than one, so this transient behavior is determined by Laplace transform. Also for single nodes, we can apply this method. So in other words, we can say that for multi-node and multi-mesh circuit that are described by sets of linear differential equations, we use this analysis technique. So when we have the DC source, so we have not the complicated response of the circuit, but if we have the signal sources which vary is in ways which are more complicated, so then we wish to determine the transient response of the circuit. Third, we can use the Laplace transform to introduce the concept of transfer function as a tool for analyzing the steady state. So steady state uh, response is the response after initial behavior of the circuit. So this response is stable. This is the stable response. And in case of sinusoidal source, which is the steady state जो sinusoidal response is when the frequency of the sinusoidal source is varied. So as I said that when the signal sources are complicated or there are some variation in frequency of the sinusoidal source, so we want to consider the transient behavior and the steady state response of the circuit. How can we say that the transient response and the steady state response in a more clear way is that we have seen the frequency response of a simple RC circuit, right? So the up to the cutoff frequency, so we have the transient behavior of the circuit, right? And after the cutoff frequency, the response is stable. So that stable response is the steady state response of the circuit. So this in fact is a one node. This is just a one node or one mesh circuit. So it is not very complex. So when we have the complex circuits having multiple node and multiple mesh, so we need to adopt the Laplace transform, which is more useful. Also, to calculate the steady state response when there is a variation in frequency, so we need to measure the both transient and steady state response. So we relate the time domain behavior of the circuits with its frequency domain behavior. So also we want to relate a relationship between the time domain behavior and the frequency domain behavior of the circuit. So also we measure the behavior of the circuit in some other ways which are useful for circuit analysis with the help of Laplace transform. So when we are using phasor, we transform the circuit from time domain to phasor or frequency domain. So the result obtained in phasor domain was transformed back into the time domain. So we have seen that the Laplace transform also use the same procedure. So it is significant when we have the variety of inputs for phasor analysis. Also, we can take in account the initial condition of the circuit, which we cannot consider without Laplace transform. So also, because we know that we have the energy storage elements in the circuit, and they have some initial value of energy in the circuit. So that initial value should be considered when we apply the input. So at the time of the application of the voltage or current, so we know the initial condition of the energy storage elements. So these conditions are important, and we should taken these conditions into account. Laplace transform helps us to consider the initial conditions of these circuit elements. Also, the Laplace transform is capable for providing us the total response of the circuit, which is in fact is the natural and the forced responses of the circuit. So we can take into account both the natural and forced responses of the circuit. So that is in fact we can say that we can take account the behavior of the circuit as a whole when we use the Laplace transform. So also we can able to convert the differential equations into the algebraic ones with the help of Laplace transform. So to solve the differential equation is different, but if we are able to convert it into the algebraic ones, so we can greatly simplifies the effort needed to analyze and solve circuits. So in fact, in phasor domain, we learn that we can replace the sinusoidal or sinusoidal signals in the form of complex exponentials. So all these circuits belongs to the LTI systems, in which we apply the input sinusoidal or cosinusoidal in the form of exponential, and we take the output as the in the form of these weighted exponentials. So these are the eigenfunction of this LTI systems. So what I mean to say that we have a circuit in which we apply the exponential signal. This exponential signal is nothing but the sinusoidal signal, and we take the output, which is also an weighted exponential, at the output of this circuit. So this circuit is in fact is a LTI system whose input is the complex exponential and the output is also the complex exponential. So the eigenfunction property applies to any complex number S instead of along with the purely imaginary signals. So if the signals are purely imaginary or they are the complex signals, in both cases we use the eigenfunction property. So that is helpful. So this property, eigenfunction property, will in fact is the development of Laplace transform method, and that gave us the stable response, gave us the stable response from the system when we apply the signal which have infinite energy, or when the system is unstable. So the system stability will be taken into account by considering the poles and zeros of the system, and that is in fact taken account by Laplace and Z transform methods. So now we go on to the definition of Laplace transform. For example, there is a time domain function f of t, and we want to take the Laplace transform in f of s. F of s is in fact is a complex variable given by s is equal to sigma plus j omega. So first we have seen that the signal is purely imaginary, but now the signal is in fact is the, so it is in fact a function of any complex number s. So it is a complex variable f of s. So f of t is e minus s of t. So with an initial condition of zero negative. So this zero negative condition is just before the time at 0. So it reaches to infinity, and we determine the response of the system. So for example, we have different functions. We have the unit step function. We have the exponential function, and we have the direct delta function. And we want to find the Laplace transform of these functions. So how can we take the Laplace transform of these functions? And let's see, we use the formula of Laplace transformation. So first we see the function u of t. So you know the unit step function is 1 at time 0, and it will be constant after t is equal to 0, and we can describe it in time domain as. So we can integrate the function from 0 negative to infinity. So its value is 1 e minus st d of t, and that is minus 1 over s e minus st 0 to infinity, and that is minus 1 over s plus 1 over s into 1, and that is equal to 1 over s. So for 1, we have the Laplace transform is equal to 1 by s. Now we have the decaying exponential. Decaying exponential is in fact is e minus at. So it's the value of t is absolute. So it may be positive t. So positive t it is decaying, and for negative t it is increasing. So if we want to take the value of its value of e minus at for time t is equal to 0 to infinity, so we will consider the positive part only, and we apply the Laplace transformation formula from 0 negative to infinity, and we have e minus at into e minus st. So this is e minus s plus at. So this is in fact is integrated, and we get the value of this integral. And when we substitute the infinity, so the value of this integral is 0, and minus the value of this integral with the exponential 0, we will get this 1 plus s plus a of this integral value. So this is just to understand that how can we take the Laplace transform for different functions, and also for a direct delta function we have the by definition relationship for this Laplace transform is 1. For a sinusoidal function or the sinusoidal input, we take the Laplace transform as that we convert it in the form of exponentials, and we take 1 by 2j common, and we convert this in the form of exponential, and we take the integral, and we solve the integral, and we substitute the values, and that value is 1 minus s minus j omega for this part, and minus s plus j omega for this part. So by solving this, we will get the value of omega s square plus omega square. Now we use the table to use Laplace transform in circuit analysis. Of course, we cannot solve the uh, we cannot solve these functions every time, but we memorize the values of these Laplace transform. So these Laplace transform values we have calculated that delta of t is 1, u of t is 1 by s, e minus at is 1 over s plus a, and for other values we have calculated value given in the table. Also, we calculated its value for sine omega t, and cos omega t, its value can be calculated, and for all other integrals we can calculate this value as given in the table. So if we want to take the inverse Laplace transform, so this is, in fact, you can take the inverse Laplace transform from 1 to delta of t and 1 by s to u of t. So in this way, we can take the inverse Laplace transform. Also, we can take the inverse Laplace transform by this method. So these f of t to f of s and f of s to f of t makes it a transform pair. So this is, in fact, is a transform pair. So we called it the Laplace transform pair because we take the inverse, we go back and we take the Laplace transform, we go to this value. So we can transform from Laplace domain to time domain and time domain to Laplace domain by using this table. So we finish our lecture here, and the next time we learn about the properties of Laplace transform.